Minecraft is an incredibly rich game, full of a wide variety of places, mobs, and dimensions. There are many things that are hard to understand without thinking critically and drawing new conclusions. Although I knew that to be true on a surface level, it wasn't until recently that I realized just how far the rabbit hole goes. There's no limit to the creativity one can use when thinking about Minecraft lore. At the end of my previous video, I opened up a call to my audience members to submit their Minecraft theories in celebration of reaching 100,000 subscribers. I received nearly 500 entries, totaling over 140,000 words, and yes, I read through them. Tonight, we're going to show you just a tiny sliver of the creativity of the Minecraft community. The theories that we're going to explore are just a few of the many that stuck out to me for various reasons. Before we get started, I want to make it clear that these theories are not a part of the deep dive series of Minecraft lore. That means that future deep dives will not assume these theories to be true, and I personally don't believe everything in this video either. Nonetheless, there is some really cool stuff coming up, and I think these ideas are going to lead to some interesting discussions. After I go through each theory, I'll try to give a short explanation of my thoughts on the theory and why I decided to share it in this video. There's some really crazy stuff coming up, and I hope you like it. With that out of the way, we're almost ready to get started. Join me as we explore the complex theories of the RetroGamingNow community. But first, let me introduce Wondershare Filmora. I know a lot of you guys are wondering how to edit a video. However, it's not always such an easy thing to do when you're first starting out. There's a lot of expensive software that can be challenging to use. It doesn't have to be this way, and software like Wondershare Filmora proves this. Filmora is a very easy to use editing software with a surprising amount of power underneath the hood. It's capable of all common editing tasks, including keyframing, which is a fundamental editing tool that allows the user to control the state of an object on each frame. Furthermore, Filmora does motion tracking in a way that feels particularly effortless. Just aim at the object and let it calculate everything for you. I'm quite impressed by its simplicity. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. You've really got to use it yourself to see what else it can do. Click on the link in the description to download Filmora. Minecraft includes many different types of materials to be discovered. One of their primary uses is to craft newer and better tools. In some cases, the materials couldn't be used like this in real life. For example, a diamond pickaxe doesn't make much sense, but it's still in the game. Since Minecraft has shown us it's willing to bend the rules for diamonds, it's somewhat strange that we can't do the same with emeralds. This theory asks a question: why are there no emerald tools? There may be something going on that isn't obvious. Let's take a closer look at emeralds. Their primary use is currency to trade with villagers. However, they have a deeper power, of which the villagers are unaware. Emeralds seem to be a battery for mystical energy, and there are some mobs that have discovered this. For example, the witch uses an emerald to brew potions without a stand. Its most devious use is with the illagers. Their powerful totems of undying appear to be made from emeralds, and a previous deep dive suggested that they are capable of storing vast amounts of experience. So are raids a means of charging the illagers' totems of undying using the experience of dead villagers? This theory suggests that this explanation is incomplete. After all, a mob farm would provide just as much, if not more experience than a challenging raid. It would seem as though illagers have a secondary motivation. We've already established that the totem appears to have emerald eyes, and where better place to find emeralds than a village? We'll return to this idea momentarily. The totem is made from more than just emeralds. The rest of the body is clearly gold. It implies that these experience storage units can't operate on emeralds alone, but require a larger quantity of another material. So how can we understand the ways in which gold fits into the equation? Let's look at some properties of gold. Golden tools have the fastest mining speed, and gold equipment receives better enchantments more often than any other material. This benefit comes at an expensive practical cost. Gold is extremely soft, resulting in equipment with low durability that is inadequate for general use. So are there any ways to strengthen gold to take advantage of its magical conductance? Gold alloys exist in real life, such as electrum, which is gold and silver, and gold jewelry is often alloyed with copper. This is a potential way to solve the durability problem. However, it seems that villagers have not been able to advance metallurgy to the point of gaining this capability. Without this advanced knowledge, there's no way to harden gold into anything usable. However, there's another society which cares about gold far more than the villagers, and these are the piglins. It's possible that the piglins' affinity for gold is rooted in its ability to absorb experience in the form of receiving better enchantments. Or maybe they just think it's shiny. Either way, this theory suggests that piglins may have once had the solution to the durability problem: netherite. It's said that all of the netherite has been mined out by the piglins, leaving only ancient debris. This has been confirmed by the developers. The Minecraft website's official description of netherite says the following: Pure netherite, the strongest, most durable material in Minecraft, is no more. Piglins mined it all out. Now the only way to obtain it is by salvaging netherite scrap from ancient debris. This theory suggests that piglins had independently found a way to alloy gold into a more usable form by combining gold and netherite ore. This would result in one of the strongest materials known in the Minecraft multiverse. But the piglins were either unable to or unwilling to share that knowledge with anyone else. Perhaps it was lost with the decay of their society. Let's do a quick recap. We've learned that emeralds can be used as a battery for experience, gold is more receptive to better enchantments, and netherite is a material that can be alloyed with gold to make it harder. Combining emeralds with gold produces a superior experience battery, and combining gold with netherite produces an extremely tough material. How does any of this relate to the lack of emerald tools? Let's return to another question that was asked earlier. How is it that there are two precious stones and only one can be readily made into equipment? What makes diamonds different from emeralds? Diamonds are much more common than emeralds. This relative lack of scarcity makes them unsuitable to use as a currency. Instead, they are better off in tools. If diamonds and emeralds were on equal footing in terms of usage, then emerald armor and tools should be readily craftable. So why isn't it? Perhaps it has to do with its properties as an experience battery. Early on, it's possible that villagers experimented with emerald tools, only to find that other materials had properties more suited to wear and tear. Instead, they decided to use emeralds as currency. What the villagers didn't realize is that experience is necessary to awaken the emeralds into a usable state. However, this process takes a long time. Their prolonged use as currency has led to many emeralds accumulating the necessary experience to be awakened. But the villagers have yet to learn this, entrenched in their old ways. Perhaps it's this rigid mindset that led them to banish the witch outright without giving her a chance to explain. The same mindset may have also caused the initial schism between the villagers and illagers. Let's go back to raids. It's quite possible that instead of illagers hunting down villagers for experience, raids are purely materialistic. Illagers instead hunt down villages for awakened emeralds and use those, along with gold-rich bells, to craft totems of undying. There's no need to charge a totem of undying if the emerald is already charged. With the stroke of luck, the emerald the witch had is one such awakened emerald, allowing her to use its stored energy to brew potions without the aid of a brewing stand or blaze powder. The illagers would presumably have large stores of awakened emeralds, ready to be made into totems at a moment's notice. However, why wouldn't they immediately use them for emerald tools? The theory admits that this is harder to explain. Most likely they know better than to waste awakened emeralds, and they may have yet to find uses beyond the totem of undying. Alternatively, the totem does everything they need already, so there would be no reason to use awakened emeralds for anything else. Meanwhile, the properties of pure netherite can only be speculated, as well as its significance to the piglins. However, it should be noted that netherite equipment requires combining one ingot with an existing diamond tool. If the builders knew about emerald tools, it wouldn't be much of a stretch to conceive of netherite tools being made using emerald tools instead of diamond tools, possibly adorning it with even more gold. Imagine, if you will, a material containing the experience-absorbing properties of emeralds, the speed and enchantability of gold, and the toughness of netherite, an experience-absorbing, ultra-durable, ultra-fast, highly enchantable material that, if combined with mending, would essentially last forever, perfect for something like a vast construction project. The author of this theory brings up several issues. For example, where's the evidence for this super ingot? It's a pretty big leap to assume that there are more types of alloys that are possible besides just netherite. One possible explanation is that the builders were right on the edge of discovering this technology, but they weren't able to complete it before their extinction. This would make the emerald gold netherite tools pure speculation, meaning that builders had not discovered the powerful alloy. Then again, what else did the builders know that the player doesn't know? The ancient structures are huge and complicated. Perhaps they had more advanced construction methods. Another issue that isn't solved is an important question about when did all the netherite get mined out. This is beyond the scope of this theory, but it's possible that pure netherite was long gone by the time the builders were investigating the properties of gold and emeralds. This could have slowed down their research significantly. This is Retro speaking now. I thought this theory was a really interesting approach to the properties of materials. The idea of an awakened emerald is a pretty big leap, but it's something I hadn't thought about. There are certainly some subtleties to how experience actually plays out in the Minecraft universe, and I thought the connection to the physical material properties was an interesting idea. I also wish that there was more evidence that it's possible to make alloys using netherite. Nonetheless, to whoever wrote this theory, it's a pretty cool idea. Thanks for sharing. Upon defeating an outpost or patrol captain, the player is afflicted with a Bad Omen status effect. When they enter a village, it will trigger a raid. But how do the illagers know which village the player has gone to in order to enact their brutal revenge? Well, we know the illagers can use magical energy to produce vexes and evoker fangs. They can even prevent death using a totem of undying. It's obvious that they have extremely powerful magical capabilities. With so many types of rooms, it's almost certain that there are things they're doing beyond just the totems. Some of these rooms are seemingly unexplainable, especially the huge wool statues of chickens and cats. What if there's a practical use for these? Surely they wouldn't expend so much effort constructing them for no reason. So is it possible that they're not just statues? The mob bestiary offers a potentially powerful clue. On the entry for chicken, there's a line that suggests that the chicken may be some sort of spy for the dark forces. The illagers are probably the darkest forces out there. Could they actually be using animals as spies? Consider, what if the wool statues in the mansions can serve as proxies to physical animals connected by a magical force? They could literally use the chicken as a spy. Furthermore, cats are found throughout villages. It would be awfully convenient to have some way to keep an eye on the villagers. These wool statues may serve this very purpose, allowing the illagers to see what a real-life cat sees. Then, when a player who killed one of their captains comes into a village, they would know that it's time for revenge and signal for a raid to begin. It's an interesting thought, and this theory might have something going for it. Good job, Rex Trees. I think this one's plausible. There is a boss in Minecraft that the player cannot defeat. It's a boss with a capability much darker than anything else. It has the power to control knowledge itself. To understand this boss, we need to understand the nature of the player's existence. Upon starting a new Minecraft game, the player will spawn near the center of the world with no knowledge of how to craft anything. That seems pretty normal. However, when we check the statistics, we can find something strange. There's one statistic which is time since last death. It will say that the most recent death was when the world was created. This is bizarre. Why would there even be a number there if there hasn't been a death yet? There's an interesting implication that this is not the first time that the player has been in the game. This theory suggests that the player is in a loop which starts at the center of the world and ends in a gruesome death to the mysterious boss. How is this possible? Let's take a closer look at the journey of the player, and perhaps we can learn who or what this final boss really is. The journey always starts with a new spawn, knowing nothing. From this point forward, the player learns about the world and discovers new crafting recipes, not by trial and error, but by remembering them. Upon the collection of logs, the player remembers how to craft planks, and then sticks, then pickaxes, and so forth. The player always embarks on the same journey, having an end goal of killing the Ender Dragon. Along the way, the player will come across structures that they did not build, as well as blocks that cannot be crafted. So how do these blocks get placed? To answer that question, the author of this theory suggests that the player has not collected every block there is to collect. There may be ways to make uncraftable blocks like cobwebs and end portal frames, but the player has not yet obtained the necessary items to do so. Given how crafting recipes are discovered, this makes sense. But it leads to an important question. Where are these items that cannot be found? Well, what if the missing items are found in dimensions that have yet to be discovered by the player? That's a pretty bold statement. If it's true, then why don't we see evidence of travel to these dimensions? This theory suggests that there is in fact a portal between the dimensions, however the bridge between them closes when the player enters. This is very similar to how Endermites are able to travel through pocket dimensions before they close. It's been alluded to by the developers.
So what we thought might be fun is if we could play on the teleportation mechanic, like that was the key point of Enderman. And so what if whenever they're teleporting, they're kind of going through this extra dimension that has all this bad stuff in them, such as Endermites?
So the idea that there are hidden dimensions is certainly plausible given these comments. Yet the question remains, how do we get to these dimensions? There must be a very specific combination of blocks and items that will make this type of portal possible. The challenge is finding it. With the hundreds of blocks and items in the game, it would take forever to get the perfect combination. That doesn't even take into account possible factors such as temperature, elevation, or scale. This theory says that the player does eventually figure out the perfect combination when they construct the strongholds. Furthermore, the player is also the builder of some of the ancient nether portals. The theory goes even further, suggesting that the player also created the ancient structures. Bastions and nether fortresses are a way to harvest useful materials in the nether. Mine shafts are a good way to find valuable ores. The player is also responsible for the creation of the ocean monuments and jungle pyramids. Perhaps desert pyramids were designed to hold beacons and use their beneficial effects. But all of these grand constructions still aren't enough. The player is missing something. Eventually, the player seeks the answers to the creation of the world and its own existence. After truly discovering almost everything there is to discover, the player decides to look for more dimensions in hopes of answering more questions. But this comes at a cost. This is where the player finds the true final boss of the game, guarding something that the player can only assume to be the key to knowing everything. However, this boss is impossible for the player to defeat. Without fail, the player loses, being kicked back to the start. The final boss wipes away the memories of the player, tricking it into thinking that the end is the final chapter. The boss dumps the player back into the world. Yet for some reason, relics of the player's past persist, offering some hidden reminders into the past cycles. This final boss can be interpreted as many different things, whether it be death or the universe itself. Perhaps there are some things in Minecraft which are not knowable. Retro here. Is this theory true? No, probably not. Almost all of it is speculation. However, I like that the author thought outside of the box and tried to make a lore explanation for the recipe book, something I've always considered to be a gameplay mechanic. It takes some mental gymnastics to make it work, but it was such a creative combination of seemingly unrelated facts that I chose to put it in the video anyways. So for whoever wrote this, continue to think about Minecraft using your very unique perspective. I haven't read a theory quite like this one before. Enchanting is one of the most important things the player in Minecraft can do to survive. It's worth thinking about this process from an analytical perspective. The player enchants with an enchantment table. In doing so, the player needs both lapis lazuli and experience, with more of each of them as the enchantment level gets higher. Since lapis lazuli has hardly any use in Minecraft beyond enchanting, it would appear as though it has some inherently magical properties. However, the player isn't the only one able to use enchanted items. Mobs ranging from the passive villagers to the piglins of the nether and even zombies and skeletons can all have enchanted gear. How would this be possible? One explanation for this could be theft, but a much more plausible idea is that the player isn't the only entity in Minecraft with enchanting capabilities. However, there are no naturally generated enchantment tables, and anvils only spawn in one room of the woodland mansion, with no evidence of it being used for enchanting. It seems as though there are more methods of enchanting beyond just the table. So how does enchanting actually work in practice? The words found in the enchantment tables could offer some insight. Each enchantment has a little bit of text to the side, about 3 to 5 words. It's not about what the words are exactly, more the fact that they're there at all. We could reasonably interpret these words as a requirement for enchanting, beyond just lapis and experience. The player may also be reciting a spell of sorts. This spell would be whatever words are in the table. There's clearly some element of randomness to it, although the player seems to have a vague sense of what's going to happen before the enchantment is performed. This is first and foremost a game mechanic, but it could also be interpreted to mean that the incantation or enchantment method isn't perfect, offering only rough accuracy. This begins to explain how the other mobs can get their enchanted equipment. Perhaps they're performing similar spells. The Illagers seem to have the best handle on this. Vexes and Vindicators can both equip enchanted gear, and some enchanted items can also generate in a few rooms of the woodland mansions. We've talked before about how Totems of Undying may be experience storage units, which will be quite convenient for performing many enchantments. There's also a huge statue depicting an Illager holding a torch. Inside that woolen statue is a block of lapis lazuli. Perhaps this provides the catalyst to their enchanting spell capabilities. Whenever an evoker performs magic, it speaks aloud, apparently using its totem to summon fangs or transforming sheep. This is further evidence that magic in Minecraft requires sound to complete. With that, the trifecta is all there: experience, lapis, and incantations. Although we don't see evidence of these 3 components in other mobs, one could make the argument that the same occurs for villagers. However, it seems less likely that skeletons are capable of doing this, as they don't even have vocal cords. In this case, it's more likely that their enchanted equipment is from when they were alive. One question we may ask is about the meaning of these seemingly random assortment of words that occur as a part of the incantation. The theorist actually has subsequent theories which build on this one, but unfortunately we don't have time to cover them here. So if you're interested, reach out to Nyora for more information. And this is Retro here. I always find enchantment theories fascinating because there's a lot of subtlety we tend to take for granted. I think this theorist did a good job of accurately identifying requirements for enchantment and projecting them into other contexts. I see this theory as a great discussion starter. It lays the groundwork for future theories to more fully flesh these ideas out. Good job on the analysis, Nora. Throughout our various Minecraft lore discussions, we've talked a lot about how things interact with each other in the world. But it seems as though there are some important details that we've failed to see so far. For one, the world seems to be centered around the player. If the player moves too far away from a certain area, things change. Mobs stop spawning, plants stop growing. It even causes deeply unnatural phenomena, such as water or lava stopping in midair. It's almost as if time stops when the player gets far enough away. There's some more evidence for this. When a player sleeps in a bed, time doesn't actually pass. A zombie chasing you doesn't catch you, items being smelted don't complete, and a redstone contraption doesn't skip to the end of its cycle. Rather, the act of sleeping causes the celestial bodies to change positions instantaneously. There's no actual time being skipped when sleeping. What we're discovering is deeply unsettling. How can this happen? How can the player possibly have such control over something as unchangeable as time? There's one more thing we haven't talked about. As the player explores the world, the landscape out in the distance pops in and out of existence. In fact, if the player moves fast enough, it's possible to reach the edge of the landscape. Or if the player travels far enough, they'll eventually find a huge impenetrable barrier extending from bedrock to the sky. It feels so wrong. Why would this be out here? Is it possible that it isn't natural, but some artificially constructed limit designed to restrict the player within certain areas? The implications of this evidence are disconcerting. What if the entire universe is centered on the player? Is it possible that the areas that the player can't see don't actually exist, but are generated when the player gets close enough? Does the universe bend its laws to accommodate the player, skipping and pausing time on demand? Unfortunately, it seems as though we're starting to discover things about Minecraft that were never meant to be found. By digging too far, some unnerving truths are becoming clear. What if the Minecraft world isn't even real, but rather a vast simulation which the player controls? Is it true that everything we see, every entity, every mob, every structure doesn't actually exist, but are nothing more than bytes in a vast computer program? Why does the world change as time goes on? Why did the inn suddenly get new islands? Where did the zombie pigmen go? No, I refuse to believe it. I refuse to believe that the living, breathing world of Minecraft is nothing more than a program for the enjoyment of some all-powerful being. I refuse to believe that the world can be broken down into code. Surely all of these things have an explanation, but we just haven't found it yet. The idea of Minecraft being nothing more than a game is too dark, too powerful, and too disturbing. There's no way possible that it's true, and I will not stop until I disprove this ludicrous theory. So there we have it. This video was definitely different than my other videos, and was a lot of fun to make. I still can't believe I read so many theories. I should say that if your theory wasn't picked, that doesn't mean it was bad. In fact, I had over 50 theories who were finalists, and at some point I just had to pick several instead of trying to get the absolute best 5. It's really unfortunate that so many great ideas won't get recognition in this video. So maybe if you're interested, we can do this again sometime. As I said in the introduction, I was amazed at the creativity of what you've come up with. Also, feel free to come over to the RetroGamingNow Discord to discuss these theories, or your own theories if you weren't chosen. It's a great place to help develop your ideas and see what others are doing. We'll end with that. Once again, thank you all so much for 100,000 subscribers. Hopefully this video was at least a small way for me to show my appreciation. We'll get back to the deep dives next week. Let me know what you want me to do next. This has been RetroGamingNow. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.